In this video, I'm going to show you the custom floating element block of our template. It is only available for our templates. The floating element is a special block that can be used in any place within sections. Now I'm going to show you how you can use the floating element. On the hero section, I'm going to use the floating element on this section and show you how you can use and edit this block. This is the floating element block. When I first add this block, you can see that it looks a bit messy. I'm going to change the title. That's the floating block, and then I'm going to change the formatting to something like this. I'll set it to heading 3, and you can see that this floating block is actually showing all the text block content. Now we have sizing and positioning options. Under sizing and positioning, you can see options for position left, position right, position top, and position bottom. We need to use exact values here. To do this, I'm going to move this to the left position. If I set it to 0 pixels, you can see it moves to the left edge. Now I need to move it to the top. If I set the top to 0 pixels, it goes to the top, but I want to move it even further up, so I need to use a margin value. I'll use -100, and now you can see it is floating around. I can also move this toward the bottom. If you use both top and bottom values together, it can cause layout issues. So when you use left or right positioning, you should use only one value at a time. For example, if you want to move this to the right, just remove the left value and set the right value to 0. This is how it works. You can also adjust the size of the floating element. You can change it to full size or select a different size option. You can change other settings here as well. For example, we can adjust other typography settings. These are related to the text block settings, so we're not going to cover them here. This is how the floating element works. There are some additional options as well. We have mobile offset options, texture options, and height and width settings. We can add custom width values. For example, if I want to make this 1,500 pixels wide and 200 pixels high, it will work. But if you want to make it 500 pixels wide, you need to set it to full width first. Then the width value will apply correctly. For example, if I set this to 1,700 pixels, you can see that the container extends, but the text itself stays centered. This is a very useful option. If we want to show an image inside the floating element, we can go to the background settings and add an image. Now you can see how the floating element works with an image background. I can also move this further down below the text, for example, by setting the margin to 200 pixels. And you can see that it's working properly. This is how the floating element can be used with images, text, or even a solid background color. The floating element block is very useful if you want to create something more creative or add eye-catching elements to your sections. For example, you can place an icon in one area and have text appear in another, creating a very creative layout. So that's it.